know that horticultural earnings dropped 2.8% in 2009, but the industry does contribute over 1.3 billion US dollars to Kenya, so it's important for things to stabilize in the sector. What's being done about that?
Yeah, there are quite a number of strategies we are putting in place. One is to make sure that we are able to meet the market requirements for where most of our products are going to, mainly in the European markets. So we have to make sure that we meet the market standards. At the same time, we want to make sure that we also try to explore other markets where we can also sell the Kenyan horticulture products. In addition, we also try to make sure that we coordinate our activities locally here in Kenya among all the players so that we are able to put our act together and be able to address issues that affect both production and marketing of horticulture, both locally and externally.
Well, the good news is that in the third quarter, exports to Europe started to pick up. But again, a lot of work needs to be done because we're told that 10% of agricultural produce goes to Europe, and yet that market generates 50% of your foreign earnings. Too much dependency on Europe.
Yeah, part of the reason why the situation is like that is historical. But you may remember that previously Kenya used to be very good in the export of coffee and tea. But horticulture has grown quite significantly over the last few years. But we are also seeing efforts by the government to be able to diversify, or rather to be able to recapture the gains that had been made previously as far as other commodities are concerned. But we are seeing that horticulture is continuing to become one of those very important foreign exchange earnings, because when we look at how the markets behave, when we look at the potentials we have in the country in terms of the capacity of the people we have, the land that we have, and the government policies in place, and then we realize that horticulture really presents the greatest potential in terms of further growth.
What about productivity levels and employment? We're told that about 4.5 million Kenyans are involved in horticulture in one way or another on various levels of the supply chain, except that the bulk of the farming is done by smallholders.
Yes, Kenya is one of those countries in Africa, I would say, where the smallholders have been brought into the value chains. And therefore, we realize that at the moment, about 4.5 million Kenyans are employed in both from production, marketing process along the value chain. And in due course, we expect that particular contribution to continue growing. In other words, we expect the percentage of Kenyans employed in horticulture to continue expanding. And of course, this is good for the economy, because we've had problems of employment previously, and if we can bring as many as possible Kenyans into productive work, then that is good for the economy. All
right, what are the challenges faced in the sector? We're told that the costs logistically of air freight and just, the fluctuations in the jet fuel price is something to be factored in. And in that way, then, what about boosting regional trade through the various common market protocols of the East African community?
Yes, there is that initiative to be able to boost the trade within the region. But of course, there are some peculiarities, because some of the products, we have similarities in products within the region. We have issues of connectivity in terms of roads, communication networks, which are not very well developed. But that's an area which offers a potential in terms of areas we could explore in the region. There are initiatives to do that, to be able to boost trade within the region. But as far as the costs of freight are concerned, we are also trying to think out of the box and try to look for other ways of freighting products from Kenya to the outside world, including shipping, which is fairly cheaper compared to air freighting.